Welcome back. Today, buying a house in 2024, the do's, the don'ts, let's debunk some myths. Let's talk about the financial situation that the country is in, that you guys might be in, and how we might be able to help you. So pay attention, get a notepad out, take some notes, because some of these things could really help you. I am with my business partner, Richard Tunney. He's right here. He's really happy to be here today. So, we're going to kick it straight off with interest rates. Give me something on interest rates that's going on today and your opinions on them.
To be fair, they haven't changed too much. So, you're probably seeing in the news a lot that interest rates are all coming down, which technically they are. But ultimately, the Bank of England's interest rate is still 5.25. So, for everyone that doesn't know, you've got the Bank of England's interest rate and then you've also got the lender's swap rates. So, even though the Bank of England have froze the last 3 times and everyone's saying, oh, rates have fallen, ultimately the main thing is still exactly where it was 3-4 months ago, and it's still 5.25, where 2 years ago it was 0.1. So, technically things haven't moved too much. But obviously lenders with the swap rates, they become more competitive, so they do start lowering it down a bit more, the more stability there is in the market. But even still, when you're seeing these lower rates, as you know, you're still seeing the higher arrangement fees. So what we tell all our clients is, still don't get hung up on what the interest rates are. It's all about whether the deal stacks or not, and it's about the cost over the fixed period that you're getting. So if you fix the 2 years, look at the cost of the interest, the arrangement fees and all the other fees that you have to pay in that 2-year period and see whether it's the best deal. So that might be the lowest rate with the highest arrangement fee, or it could still be a higher rate with a lower arrangement fee. It's deal by deal and client by client, basically.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really important for people to understand, they're hearing about these lower interest rates below 4%. That's the big one that everyone's talking about. But the arrangement fees are 7% and quite high, things like that. It works out good with the stress tests for the buy-to-let market. And we did the maths on one, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago? I think you have to correct me if I'm wrong. It was a 4% interest rate, 7% arrangement fee. And then the other one was a 5.2 with a 3% arrangement fee.
To be honest with you, it was a couple of weeks back, but it was something along them lines. And what you'll find is, especially like our system, it'll source all the mortgages in order, cheapest going higher. And say you're on page 1, you can be on page 5, and there might still only be £500 difference between page 1 and page 5, and that's that £500 the difference over the 5 years. So
well, that one that we done that I'm just talking about now, there was £950 difference over the payment periods, but the stress test enabled you to get what you needed to get. So for that extra £1,000, it worked in that market today. So a lot of people was going, I'm never paying 7%, I'm not paying the 7% arrangement fee. You have to do the maths to make sure it works or it doesn't work. And if you're a seasoned investor, you'll understand that 7% arrangement fees actually don't mean anything. It's just numbers, because the 4% and the 7%, or the 5.2 or 5.5 with the 3%, over the period of time, there wasn't much in it, but it allowed us to get more money out as investors because of the stress test for the rental side of it. And that was one thing that happened. And then also another thing that I keep getting asked by a lot of people, Rich, is I set up a limited company to buy a property in 2024. My dream is to become a landlord or get involved in property investing. How long do I need to trade in my limited company before I'm allowed to get a mortgage, technically?
Yeah, so I'd say this is one of the biggest misconceptions, because we've spoke about this on previous videos and stay on, networking events and so on, but people still assume that the limited company needs to be trading for a certain amount of time, but that's obviously not right. So you can set a limited company up today and apply for a mortgage the same day, because what the lender's going to look at is that the director, i.e. you, is matching their criteria, and as long as you match their criteria, they'll be happy to lend to you. So there is no time limit. It can be done on the same day.
So basically, guys, you can set up a limited company today and you can apply for a mortgage tomorrow, technically. You don't need no trading, because the borrowing, whether it be a buy-to-let or a bridge, is based on you and the asset, technically. Bridging, it's more on the asset than you. Buy-to-let, it's kind of like on par. and it's a lot to do with the rental income. So yeah, that's one thing that we can literally throw out the window right now. Limited companies can apply for mortgages 1 day after inception, basically, because once you set up a limited company, it takes about a day for it to be registered on Companies House. So that's another one. Another thing that is really important that I want to get across to you guys, and Richard will explain this in detail, when you get a residential mortgage and you get your offer, it basically means that the lender has done all of their checks that need to be done. So they've checked that the property you're buying adds up to the money you're paying for it. They'll get a valuation done, and that needs to have a tick next to it. They will also, you know this thing, guys, seriously, 3 videos on the trot. 3 videos on the trot. It's been here. It does all of this kind of stuff. My media team think it's really, really, really cool. You know what? If you want it, comment below and you can come and collect this for free. Get rid of that thing, please do now. Right, so the second thing is they will do an affordability check on you. So they will check your credit report, they will check your bank statements, they will check proof of income. They will make sure that you can afford to repay the loan that you are borrowing. But when you get the mortgage offer, that is not the end of it. People think once they've got the offer, we're good, everything's done, we can carry on. And what I found, Rich, is a lot of people will go out and in that time of mortgage offer to completion of all the conveyancing to collect the keys to their new house, people take out credit cards. They go and get finance on a car. Have the conversation with people about what needs to be done and why this is not good.
It's pretty much for what Steve said. So you could waste a lot of time and a lot of money and potentially lose your dream home if you do it. So, like I said, when we submit the application, we're going to tell them exactly what your salary is, exactly what your outgoings are. Everything's going to be ticked off right at the start. Once they've looked at that, looked at the property and give you the mortgage offer, as Steve said, it then goes into conveyancing, and depending on your solicitor and the property and whatnot, this can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months and longer. So you could be waiting all this time. You go out, you take credit out, and then normally a week before the lender releases the funds, they'll run a final credit check to make sure that you haven't incurred any adverse credit, you haven't missed any payments, or again, you've took out further credit. Now, if that's the case and the lender aren't happy with it and it then falls out of affordability, the lender can kick this case out there and then. So you could have been through a 6-month process. The week before you're ready to collect the keys, the lender declines the application. So it's a big no, basically, but you know, that's something. If you've got a good broker, your broker should be telling you and explaining that to you. Do not go out and do any of the stuff we've just spoke about, because it will affect the application.
Yeah, we've seen it happen. I've watched it happen. I've seen somebody get a mortgage offer for their home of £400,000, their dream home. They've passed everything that needs to be passed, and then they've gone out and they've purchased themselves a new car 2-3 weeks prior to completion of their property. And then literally 2 days before, their solicitor has called up and said, the mortgage offer has been rescinded. They are no longer going ahead with completion on this property. And then when the broker or the solicitor has got the information back, it's because their affordability had changed with the new purchase of their car. So you have to wait until completion. Don't be that person who's impatient. Get what you want, make sure it all goes according to plan, and then once you've got it, then you can move forward and plan correctly. But don't do that, guys. Don't take a credit card and don't take car finance if you have your mortgage offer in writing. Wait until completion. That's another massive don't do, but do. So do both and don't do, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Don't get credit. Don't get a car. Make sure you do both of those by not doing them. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense completely. So, next up, in debunking some myths, when you go to take credit, as in a mortgage, you will have to send your bank payments, you will have to send your bank statements in to a mortgage broker or the lender directly. What are some of the things on bank statements that lenders don't like?
So the reason they ask for your bank statements is to check how you manage your money. If you're going into your overdraft every month, and say you're a first time buyer and you're living at home, if you're living at home and you're going in your overdraft every month, then it's going to cause a bit of concern for the lender, because they're going to think, well, when you have all these bills, the new mortgage, the gas, the electricity, the council tax, how are you going to still struggle to manage your money there? Of course, they're going to know things are going to change. Like, you might eat out a bit more, you might spend a bit more on clothes because you've got the luxury of living at home. But going into your overdraft all the time, they're not going to like the look of that. If they see there's a lot of, gambling on there, crypto, things like that, they won't like that. Even, people probably laugh, but OnlyFans, things like that, is pretty much what they don't like here.
So what would you advise the people who are watching this today, if they're planning on getting a mortgage in 2024, what would you say is a good way of managing your finances through your bank, what they like to see?
Just budgeting, really, and having good money management. Obviously, if you're going to ask the bank for, 100, 200 grand, whatever it is, you've got to remember they don't know you or anything about you. The only thing they can go off is your credit report and then your bank statement. So, if you put yourself in the bank shoes, and if somebody has to borrow money off you, and you looked at their bank statements and they've got all, mad gambling on there, or they're constantly in their overdraft or missing payments or whatever it would be, would you borrow that person money? It's a lot of it's common sense. Just, live within your means, and, you'll be fine. You'll have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, so underwriters are usually the people that will review your bank statements. They like consistency. They like to see your money comes in on the last Friday of the month. They'll see your mortgage, if you've got a residential mortgage. If you're looking for a residential mortgage, they might see your rent going out. They might see your car finance going out. And then throughout the month, they'll be like, put petrol in the car 3 times. Not every day exactly the same time, but consistently. You eat out twice a month. You don't really splurge on too much stuff. And they just like to look at bank statements and go, okay, that person's a safe bet. That's what they like to see. And like Richard said, gambling, OnlyFans, crypto, these are all seen as things that could spiral out of control very quickly. So again, putting it into a category, you're not in the category of consistency. Even if you do spend money on crypto, OnlyFans and gambling every single day, to you it might be consistency. To the bank, it's like a massive red flag. So there's some of the things that you should do and some of the things that you shouldn't do when it comes to your bank statements.
Yeah. Another little tip as well is, if you are transferring money out or getting money transferred in, to have accurate references on there that the lender can read. So if it was that, your friend's transferring money in for a holiday that you've paid for out of your account, they can easily read that £500 is from X for a holiday, or vice versa. If it's that you're still living at home and you're giving your parents rent each month, it clearly states what it is. That's always a good tip, because it makes the underwriting a lot easier.
Yeah. A tip that I can give you, from experience of being in this industry nearly a decade now, having a mortgage broker is probably one of the best things you can do. Now, most people, when they take out a residential mortgage, they will go direct to their bank and they will fill all the paperwork out themselves. They will go backwards and forwards. If you're with a tier 1 lender like Barclays or NatWest, if something doesn't add up, you usually just kick straight out, because it's a computer generated answer. Having a broker is like having a middle person who is like a spokesperson for you on your behalf. They know how to deal with certain issues. They know how to answer questions correctly. They know how to have a conversation direct with the lender. And so many people overlook the fact of having a broker. Me, I still use a broker to this day. I make sure that we have somebody who's in the middle that can answer all the questions, because 1, it saves time, and 2, it saves miscommunication. So I'm a big fan of having a broker. That's what I believe. Now, on to the next part, which I think is quite an important part. It's refinancing. A question I get asked all the time is, I have a bridge. Now, guys, a bridge is where you borrow money on a short-term basis, 6, 12, 18, 24 months. It's usually if you're doing the buy, refurbish, refinance rent strategy, or you're buying from auction. It's a short-term loan. It's not a buy-to-let. A buy-to-let is something that is a long-term, 20, 25, 30-year, 35-year mortgage, whereas a bridge is a very short-term loan. So a lot of people use bridges, as you know. We do a lot of them. And then they say to me, what's the process of turning the bridge into a buy-to-let, refinancing it? What tips would you give to somebody, like, say I'm brand new to the industry, I've took a bridge out, Rich, I've completed my renovation, or I'm coming up to complete my renovation. When do I start the process of turning it into a buy-to-let refinancing?
Okay, so in terms of when to start the process, it's theoretically when, you know, the refurb's coming to an end. So lenders don't like it if you're submitting an application and your property's still like 6 weeks away from being finished, because they just want you to submit it when it's fresh, it's ready to go. So, you know, you can probably get away with 1 to 2 weeks earlier submitting it, because if you know for a fact that, oh, it's just a bit of carpet to go down or something like that, by the time we would submit the application for you, and the lender looks over the documents and stuff like that, and evaluation gets booked in, normally that bit of carpet's been laid or the bit of snagging's been done. It's not like a kitchen still needs fitting or something. So you normally 1 to 2 weeks out is a good bet, and you can get all the initial underwriting on your documents and so on done, and then get the valuation booked in, hopefully for, you know, a couple of days after it's finished. And at least that way, as you always touch on, you know, there's no tenant moved in, there's not boxes everywhere, and hopefully you'll get the higher valuation that you want. And then the only other things you need to remember is that if you refinance them within 6 months, not all lenders will do it, but there still is a lot that are happy to refinance within 6 months. But if you're looking to refinance at a higher value, you just need to make sure you've got your documents in order. So what I mean by that is, let's say you've bought a property for £100,000, you spend £30,000 on the refurb, and the end value's 160. You want to refinance at the 160. Within 6 months, the lender will only refinance at the purchase price of £100,000 unless you can prove to them how you've uplifted the property. So the way that is before and after pictures, schedule of works, invoices, bank statements showing payment. So the lender can see how you bought it for £100,000 and now 3 months later you think it's worth 160. They can see we think that because we spent X on it and we've improved it this way. So to speed up the application, it's having things like that in order, because we've had a few clients before who don't have the before and after pictures. You know, they paid cash and haven't really got the invoices, you know, the bank statements aren't really in order, and now obviously that can affect the underwriting again, as we've touched on. So it's just making sure you've got all that in order, because if you are on a bridge, for example, the quicker you get off the bridge the better. So even 4 week delay is still an extra bridge payment, isn't it?
Okay. And to finish up, credit report. Okay. Now we usually start all of our masterclasses, Hamilton University, Property Circle Lives with the credit report. It's the first thing we talk about when anybody asks us questions when it's to do with finance. But because it's such an important part, I wanted to touch upon it at the end so it's fresh in everybody's mind. Please explain the importance of your credit report. We like to use Check My File. It's the one that we believe is the best one. The link is in the description below for you guys to click the link and sign up. It's free for the first 30 days.
Yeah, free for 30 days, and then I think it's $14.99.
Yeah, $14.99. Guys, if you're not on Check My File, are you really in the property world? Because everything you do in the property world when it comes to lending is based around your credit. So some do's and don'ts with your credit report, if possible, please, Rich.
Yeah, so, I mean, in terms of do's, obviously just make sure you're keeping on top of all your payments, and you're not going to have any adverse credit, because that's always the worst part. But it's massive to have it, especially like Steve said, if you are in property, because the amount of cases we see where people come to us for a mortgage, we apply for the mortgage, they tell us, yeah, no credit issues at all, and when we run the credit check for the agreements in principle, the lender kicks it out and says it's a decline because adverse has popped up. Now when we speak to that client and we're like, you know, what adverse credit you got, they haven't got a clue about it because they haven't kept up to date with their credit file, and it can be things that are a bit out of their control, which examples are, you know, you've been renting a property or owned a property and then you've moved, and the last utility bill's gone to the old address that you've never known about. Now this lender's sending letters to your old address, they don't know where you've moved, you could have changed providers or anything like that. And then once you don't respond to them letters, they can put a CCJ or a default on your credit file. You might not know about that until you apply for credit. And once something hits your credit file, it's on there for 6 years. So trying to get it off then's more tricky, and again, if you're on time frames of trying to get this lending, it can massively have an effect on it. Parking fines are the same, you know, you don't pay your parking fine, but you're not getting the letters. We've seen loads of cases where people who have got great jobs, had great credit in the past, got multiple properties, still ended up with the CCJ that they've never known about. So, like Steve said, if it is something you're serious about, you should just keep on top of it, yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a very important part of your credit report. It's the CFAS, CIFAS. It's your fraud marker warning. Now, most people are like, fraud? I don't do any fraud. Your numbers, your identity, everything is floating in a world of technology. And there are some very smart people out there that know how to pull your details out of thin air, basically, out the sky. And they use your details on credit cards, on like accounts that you don't even know that they've set up in store accounts and stuff like that. And if you don't know about it, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to be able to resolve it if something comes up. Whereas if you're on top of your stuff and there's a fraud marker comes up or something, at least you can deal with it there and then on the spot. Same as the CCJs, like Richard says. So check my file. Your credit report is super important when it comes to your property journey. But also, guys, just your journey in life in general. Because if you want a mobile phone and you've got a CCJ from something that you don't know, it could hinder you getting a mobile phone. If you want to take out a credit card and you've got a CCJ or some markers you don't know about, it could hinder that. It could have a massive impact in your life. And for £14.99 a month, it's just that peace of mind, and it just makes you just carry on with the world in an easier way, because everything revolves around lending. Your mortgage, your car payments, your credit card, everything. So massive tip there, massive tip from us to keep on top of it. Could speak to you for hours, could literally keep going and going and going and going, but we can't. If you want to know more, join the Property Circle, join Hamilton University. We're constantly doing lives like this with the members. We are the fastest growing property education network in the entire country by a mile. But thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Any videos you guys want to see, comment below, let me know. We will make them happen. Thank you for Richard for joining me on this video today. You'll see many more with him in the future. So guys, catch you soon.